Hi everyone, I'm Dr. Faisel Syed,
And I'm Dr. Dan McCarter.
and you're listening to Faisel Friends, where we believe access to primary care is a right, not a privilege.
Today, we're talking to Dr. Gordon Chen, Chief Medical Officer of ChenMed and the co-author of The Calling, a memoir of family, faith, and the future of healthcare, about the calling. Let's dive right in.
Welcome, Dr. Gordon Chen. As many of you may already know, Gordon is a very passionate visionary. He's been driving a physician-led healthcare revolution, restoring a sense of purpose for many doctors and transforming care for the most underserved, marginalized, forgotten populations. Gordon, welcome to our show.
Thank you so much, Faisel and Dan, for having me. I look forward to the time together.
So let's get right into the book. Why did you write the book? I mean, in the middle of all the things that are going on in your life, writing a book and putting it all out there, why did you do that?
Well, there are two main reasons why we wrote the book. Number one, if I can just be open and transparent, this has just been an incredible journey that we've gone through as a family. And we've seen amazing things happen, and we've struggled and we've suffered. And quite honestly, we've seen just God move in and through us as a family, through a lot of that suffering, to build what we have today in ChenMed. And so through that experience, almost losing my father and suffering as a family full of doctors in a broken healthcare system, then almost losing my brother. But in the meantime, channeling that suffering into passion, to fix a broken healthcare system, starting with the most vulnerable patients, and then being able to grow and scale and build that and go into multiple different geographies. And despite people saying, hey, you can't scale healthcare, being able to show that we can, in a transformative way, and watching things happen that we wouldn't have expected, just from my dad's getting through cancer, thank God. But doors being open that we wouldn't have expected, to the point where we're realizing we can transform American healthcare. So that story, that God story for us, right? We wanted to share. We wanted to just share our experience, as doctors, as family members, as folks, with this true calling to help build something better for the most vulnerable. That was one reason. The other reason is, as we've grown, and we've got, I don't know, 5,300 team members right now. But as we've grown, we've been so encouraged to find others that share this passion, for our vision and mission, right? And we wanted the book to help inspire more people that it can be done. Here's how it can be done. Can you help us to accelerate this transformation in healthcare? And so we wanted to inspire others to join us in this healthcare revolution. And so those are the two main reasons to share our, I'll call it our God story, right? And then also to inspire others to join in this healthcare revolution. That was the main motivation for writing the book.
Oh my gosh. I mean, I was fortunate. I got to read a copy of the book before it came out. And I was just so impressed about like all the personal stories, just putting it all out there. It's incredibly vulnerable. It's incredibly honest and just open. And it is, and I think that's what draws so many people into it. I mean, you get sucked right in. Actually, one of the things that you talk about in the book is training for physicians. And so I remember before I joined ChenMed, you and I were talking, and I remember my state of mind at that time thinking, oh, I'm the chief medical officer of one of the largest community health centers in the country. I can bring so much to ChenMed. And then you had asked me a very innocent, in a simple way, kind of question. boy, what kind of training did you have to be doing what you're doing? And I was so embarrassed because my training was the morning of my first day. I never had any type of formal training outside of regular, the CME, the annual requirements. What kind of training do physicians need in order to transform healthcare delivery?
That's a great question, Faisal. And when I think about training and how physicians have been groomed through medical school and residency, sometimes a fellowship, um, we're used to training, right? We're used to getting poured into. We're used to having folks to give us feedback and what we can do better. Now, most of that training is how we can acquire more knowledge or specific skills as it relates to being a doctor, writing orders, and being accountable for people's lives, right? Um, and then something happens when you become an attending, right? It's almost like, all right, you go from trainee one day to the next day, you're the expert, or you should know. And then not only does that change in terms of kind of your mindset, like I should have the answers now, rather than having someone to guide me and coach and mentor. Um, then all of the other additional support stops, right? It's like,
Yeah,
now you're on your own, you're by yourself, no
that's
one's
it.
co-signing or no, and there's a gap there. And so for most doctors, they go out and they're just trying to be productive with RVUs or seeing patients and just and they still call it the practice of medicine, but the amount that you're learning and training significantly slows down. And for many doctors, it just stops, to be honest with you. Unless they get CME time and they get these very targeted episodes where you're open, and most of that is not like learning how to influence or lead. Most of that is learning the updates and
Yeah.
medical knowledge, right? So no one's really training you how to influence and lead. So anyways, at ChenMed, what we've discovered, first of all, is finding the right physician that still has that interest, that desire to learn, um, and that hunger for a better way to deliver healthcare to society. That is critical. And I call that learning humility and learning agility, right? They go hand in hand. Um, and then if they're aligned with our mission, vision, values, like what we're trying to do as a company, where we're trying to go, the impact that we're trying to have, the patients that we're trying to serve, then that's a beautiful fit. And we welcome them into ChenMed, and then we pour into them. And what the training looks like, and this is very atypical, right? Because most folks just they show up and they're given a computer and they just start working.
That's right.
So for us, it's intensive training for about 4 weeks, just learning about what we're doing as an organization. What does it mean to be a transformative care model? How do we start to learn more about ourselves as people, as leaders, before we can start to pour into others, our care team, our patients? We have intensive training in just how do we talk to patients in a way where we're influencing them to change their behaviors. And it requires earning trust. And our model is really a relationship driven model that is designed for behavior change. And if you think about the training in medical school and residency, it's more designed about knowledge transfer, right? As long as I'm transferring knowledge, whether or not they receive it, whether or not they do anything with it or change, that's on the patient. That's the majority of how medical training is done. But at ChenMed, that's just not enough. We need to be accountable for the patient's outcomes and the patient's behaviors. And knowing that we can't control the patient, we have to maximize our influence with the patient. And so how do we earn trust? How do we build a relationship? How do we not only focus on the clinical stuff? How do we focus on the other things that make us human? The relationship connectivity, right? Um, and that empathy.